I would like to speak about a different technology, which is also using a single ingredient, and this is retinol. And I know that there is major interest in this product because this is considered to be the gold standard for anti-aging. This is the structure of retinol. Okay, this is a vitamin A derivative, vitamin A1, and you see the end of the molecule is alcohol, and we will talk about this in a few minutes better and more details. So what do we know it? We know that there are several types of retinoids that are being used for topical applications. Retinol is the only one that's used for cosmetic because it has the least irritation on the skin. One does not need to get a prescription to use retinol. So retinol is a special derivative. You see, retinol is much weaker than retinoic acid, okay? So that's why we have used this one in cosmetic. This is just to get you familiar with what is retinol. Tritonium is the all-trans retinoic acid. It's also known as retin A. So this is the acid. And the third one is isotretinoin, which also called Accutane. And Accutane is delivered orally, but all are prescription-based. Retinyl palmitate, it's a derivative of palmitic acid with retinoic acid, but it's retinyl palmitate. This is a derivative. People consider it to be more skin friendly. It's less irritating, but the skin, the enzyme of the skin are not familiar with this, and you will understand it in a minute. Not familiar, which means it cannot do the job that retinol can do. So we need to understand retinol a little bit better before we go into encapsulation. Why do encapsulate and how does it work? And if you just will be a little bit tuned up, you will be much smarter, and you will understand what is the value of the encapsulation. So the number one issue with retinol, or the benefit of retinol, is color toning of the skin, UV effect. So retinol is known for its highly effective in reversing sun damage, toning of the skin. It's also decreasing the sign of aging, such as fine line. This is all data established over the last maybe 40 years. It's a brightening material. It evens the skin color, like toning. It's improved the texture, tightness. It tightened the pores, reduced the size of the pores. It stimulates blood flow and collagen production, which are critical to reduce wrinkle. And overall, it encourages skin cell turnover. So it accelerates the exposure of younger looking skin. Okay, so these are beautiful and very important to know that retinol is not only wrinkles. If you're looking for maybe the best whitening, the best toning, the best material to tighten the pores, this is all in retinol. Okay, so some companies will emphasize one benefit and other companies will emphasize another benefit, but you should know all the benefits that have been established as to retinol. What is to know importantly? That vitamin A derivative, including retinol, they are very sensitive to light and to air. So the packaging has to reflect this. And I advise here on what packaging you should use. So what do you think? Is this a good packaging for retinol? Is this bottle brown? Is this a good packaging for retinol? Okay, So I don't know, what did you say? I didn't check your answers, but this is not a good packaging for retinol. This one is a much better one because retinol is sensitive to light, but also to air. It gets easily oxidized if the packaging is not hermetically locked. And you see now here with the dropper, it's not hermetically because every time you take a sample, you expose it to air and you accelerate by this the oxidation. Now, let's understand a little bit deeper how retinol is actually working. And you also understand from this what is the value of retinol compared to other derivative of retinol, like retinol palmitate, retinaldehyde, and so on. So this is a little bit complex picture, but we will handle it with care, step by step. What you see here, this is a model of a cell, and inside the cell, we see the nucleus, okay? Now, here is the retinol receptor. Retinol will get into the skin only through receptor. In order for retinol to penetrate the skin, the cell, it has to be connected to a retinol binding protein. R is for retinol, retinol binding protein. When they combine, then they can pass through the gate. And now they're becoming inside the cytoplasm, the liquid of the cell. Once they get in, they need to connect to another protein, okay? Another protein. What is the other protein? It's called the cellular retinol binding protein, CRBP. Cellular retinol binding protein. So now here is the retinol. Connect to bind into the binding protein. With this combination, the retinol undergoes two steps. First, it becomes retinol aldehyde, okay? RH, retinol aldehyde. You see also in the bottom of the picture, this is retinol aldehyde. So we started with retinol, remember here the OH group. Now we go to retinol aldehyde, now we have the aldehyde group. Okay, this is one step. Then the second step with another complex, it becomes into retinoic acid, RA, retinoic acid. And you see here the different structure of the acid. So now our retinol changed chemically several times. Each time it changed to retinol, retinol aldehyde, and then retinoic acid. This now retinoic acid, okay, connecting to or binding to another binding protein. It's called the cellular RA, retinaldehyde is RA, binding protein. This complex now can enter into the nucleus. Okay, you understand now that the effect is not physical, biological. So retinoic acid now in the nucleus is combining to another receptor, the other receptor. This is it's called the RXR, and with RXR, this complex is connecting to the DNA, to a certain area, certain sequence of the DNA. And this complex now initiating or activating the transcription of targeted anti-aging genes. So retinol works on the level of the DNA to synthesize enzymes and protein that are involved in the anti-aging, like collagen synthesis and so on, from the DNA. This is important because you see, you don't need to put expensive materials such as retinaldehyde. And you don't need to add retinoic acid, which is a prescription material. These two are extremely sensitive and easily get oxidized, and they irritate the skin. It's sufficient to use the retinol And because we have the right binding proteins, that will take it through the process, and we produce ourselves our retinoic acid, and with this we produce our own enzyme as anti-aging enzymes. So now, if you understand this process, you will be able to determine why you don't need to use retinol palmitate, because palmitate is not even part of this. Nobody here, no enzyme can bind to this or internalize it into the cytoplasm, and definitely not into the nucleus to activate any synthesis of proteins and so on. So this is important to know, because our major competition in terms of stability is the palmitates, and they think that they have a good product. So I explain you this. Now, what is that you have to know, or what else you have to know about retinol, is that it's a very sun sensitive. Why it's so sun sensitive? Because the retinol initiate growth of new skin, and the new skin is very delicate and should not be exposed to the sun. That's why retinol can be used only for night cream. And people that use retinol during the night should protect their skin so it does not expose to the sun, either by filters or by cloth or by any other mean. But this is very important to understand. So now, what did we understand so far? That we have a very good and potent material, but the challenge in using it is, number one, stability, storage, shelf life. The material is very delicate and tend to get oxidized and discolor. Then, how do we retain the efficacy? How can we make sure that we reduce the wrinkles or whatever it's supposed to give us, a radiant skin, renew and tone, and so on? So these are the major challenges. In addition to the fact that retinol still could irritate sensitive skin. What is the solution to all this? The solution that we offer is MultiSal Retinol. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but this is something that I did not explain for sure in the past clearly. MultiSal Retinol is a unique multisal. It's made out of microspheres, okay? Inside the microsphere, the core is containing the hydrophobic submicron spheres infused with retinol, and the package is all closed with the shell. And as typically you know, with multisal, the shell is the limiting factor. What else is unique about multisal retinol is the fact that we have some antioxidant in the shell. And this is to support the stability of retinol in solution. We are talking about microspheres with a diameter of 20 to 30. One can feel it, can see it, but once you put it on the skin, it's soft and it doesn't give you any kind of grittiness. In terms of stability, we know that the free retinol start with yellow and become brown over time. The multisal retinol starts with yellow and maybe can get a little bit darker yellow, but this is the stability of the retinol. It may get a little bit darker, but still not brown. What do we know when we use multisal retinol on the skin and we use a RIP testing? RIP testing is a test that indicates irritation. We found out that multisal retinol is a non-primarily irritant. In other words, it's safe to be used on the skin, even for sensitive skin. And it makes sense because actually retinol releases so slowly, so it doesn't cause irritation, and we tested it at 0.5%. We recommend to use 0.1% only. I know that there is a tendency to use more and more and more, but there is no need for this. Stability-wise, We measured the stability over 50 days at accelerated conditions, and we looked at the retinol, percent of retinol retained over time. And you see that the free retinol drops down pretty fast. So it loses about 50% within 10 days, 50%. And the MultiSal Retinol is also losing a little bit, losing about maybe 30% over almost 2 months at accelerated conditions, which means 42C or 50 for 50 days, yeah. So how we measured it, we took samples and we analyzed it with HPLC, and we got exactly the amount of retinol that we have in the sample. So we see that MultiSal Retinol is much more stable than the free retinol. We also compared the MultiSal with other encapsulations, and we found almost the same data. Now, efficacy, does it work? So we tested it on an eye cream, and within 2 weeks, you could see the difference clearly, as you can see in this picture. MultiSal Retinol is working to smooth the skin and reduce the fine lines. This is a limited test that we did, and many other people repeated the test and received very much the same results. It's known that MultiSal Retinol now is one of the most effective technologies as an anti-aging. How does it work? Here is a short video that will explain you a little bit and summarize you what happens when you put MultiSal Retinol on the skin, the chain of processes that end up with a nice skin.
Here we see a graphical depiction of the effect of aging on skin. As aging progresses, collagen and elastin production slow, resulting in fine lines and wrinkles at the stratum corneum. When MultiSal Retinol is applied to skin, the outer layer of the microsphere breaks down upon friction, releasing the inner submicron spheres onto the skin's surface. These sal spheres, which carry the retinol, are very low in particle size and are extremely lipophilic, allowing them to penetrate through the stratum corneum and into the epidermis. As the spheres migrate through the epidermis and into the dermis, they slowly release their payload of retinol. This reduces the potential for irritancy from the retinol, as demonstrated in several repeat insult patch tests, and additionally increases the amount of contact time that the retinol has with the skin, providing for a longer window of efficacy. As the retinol is released in the epidermis and dermis, collagen and elastin production are increased, resulting in a smooth, even appearance without fine lines or wrinkles at the skin's surface.
Wonderful. You are invited
Unlike
to watch...
free or unencapsulated retinol, which is extraordinarily sensitive to oxidative degradation, MultiSal Retinol is a stable, easy-to-use form of retinol which provides not only stabilization inside your formula, but an extended release profile to reduce irritation on the consumer as well.
Great. Sorry that I interrupted him, but what I wanted to say is this video is part of the webinar, and you can get it also in a separate file and share it with other people as well. Okay, so now you understand all aspects of the MultiSal Retinol, and I wanted just to summarize it. The major value for consumer is they can see the benefit and feel the benefit in about 2 weeks. This is pretty fast for a cosmetic product. The product has a long shelf life, which means you can keep it at room temperature. I know some people keep retinol in the fridge, but you can keep it also in room temperature at reasonable temperature, like 25 degrees C. As long as it hermetically closed, it will give you the efficacy required. MultiSal Retinol is very good for people with sensitive skin. Typically, Asian have sensitive skin, and this could be probably the best product for this type of skin. For formulators that would like to use it, this is very easy to use because you add it at the end of the formula. When you prepared everything, you leave a window when you add it to the maximum with water. Instead of water, you just mix in gently the MultiSal Retinol. No need to homogenize it, just mix it easily and then immediately dispose it, immediately package the units, the finished product units. So it's easy to formulate at the end of the process when everything is at room temperature, the same way that you would add preservative or maybe the perfume. This product will yield a much more stable product, and you can make very elegant formulas, very thin and use aesthetically attracting formulas. And overall, it's a much cost-effective solution compared to maybe other encapsulation, and definitely compared to the free retinol that you know in advance that what you'll use, you lose about 50% in 10 days. And that's what the data was showing. I repeat, 50% of the amount of retinol in just 10 days. So it's expensive enough material. And the best way to use it is, of course, with MultiSal. So this is summarizing my webinar for today. I would like to thank you for your participation. I know it's a little bit trouble now these days. And most of us working from home, so this is a good opportunity to refresh your knowledge about all Salvona technologies, to get equipped, know the products, know what's the value, and know how to sell them, and know how to use them.